In the spirit of reconciliation, we acknowledge the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea, and community. We pay our respects to their elders, past and present, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples today. Oh, wrong button. Oh, did you see? Already made a mistake. Told everyone I'd make a mistake. Again, technological issues and pressing buttons. Hello, everyone. This is Materialise, the Launch Tabletop podcast, where we talk about turning game ideas into tangible objects. Today is the 17th of February, 2023, and this is episode 15. And I'm pretty certain I got it wrong last week. I think I said the wrong date and wrong episode number, so I'll have to check that. Anyway, this week's topic is psychology of games. Well, hello, everybody who is here. We have some people on the stream I can see. We've got people on the show, so things are happening. I am your host, and I am Eris, and I am joined by Kate. Hi, Kate.
Hello. How you doing?
And I just realized you've got your LTT team thing, and I've just got Launch Tabletop. So I don't know what my job description for Launch Tabletop is. So I need to figure that out before I put something there.
You are the podcaster.
Yeah, I do a couple other things too, though. We know that. So, and I wasn't sure if Jack was an appropriate job title. Like, can you just be a Jack? Is that
like of all trades?
Yeah, of all trades. Yeah. But I'm not really all trades. Some trades. Is there a character who's something of some trades? Because I think that's more accurate for me.
I think Jack of some trades would be hilarious as a title.
And as we've just discovered, we have Sen-Foong Lim with us, and I've probably butchered your name then. I'm sorry, Sen.
It's okay.
I know I've been practicing. I honestly have been, and I know I've talked to you in the past about how to say it correctly, so it's a thing I'm working on. And it
does sound better in Australian, I'll let you know.
Oh, really?
Everything sounds like sexier when you say it with an Australian accent.
Yeah, really. That's as an Australian, I feel the opposite. If I hear Australian accents in like TV and film, it's like, oh, it's ugly and harsh and whatever.
What about New Zealand accent?
That lovely Kiwi accent. Yeah,
hello.
We probably shouldn't pull the piss out of the Kiwis too much because poor old North Island's having a bit of a rough time at the moment.
Oh, is it?
So.
They've had
Auckland and Hawke's Bay and
a cyclone and then an earthquake within like a couple of days of each other.
Australian level flooding, and that's saying something considering the entire town of Lismore went under. What was it, 6 meters of water last year?
Yeah, we've had bad flooding. Yeah.
So,
Canada is cold, and that's about it.
Well, all the water freezes.
Like we do get forest fires, right? We get forest fires
in summer.
Do they turn really huge? Like we get here, where just the whole country's on fire?
Not the same way, because we have like breaks of like massive bodies of water. Like our country is like a huge amount of water, right? So we have water all over the place. But there's a lot of, and we have like rocky breaks with the Canadian Shield and the mountains and then the prairies and all. It's just a lot of different land types. Anyways, so but we have, there's avalanches, but not the same level of like a mudslide that you hear, because we don't actually live near those places. We live on the border. Everybody in Canada lives pretty much like 96% of Canadians live on the border, right? Yeah. Then all the bad stuff happens in the remote areas, like the mountains,
like the Arctic kind of area. Yeah.
No, but still just like more remote, more where people just aren't, which is anywhere except the border, right? So anyway, we don't get a lot of natural disasters, is what I'm saying.
We have. I'll do my introduction to you, and then we can look at some of the comments that people have been posting, because we've already gotten derailed. This is amazing. We're just like,
I love it. So professional.
So here's my scripted intro for Sen. Sen is a prolific member of the tabletop game industry, designing and co-designing over 50 games, but is also the co-host of the Meeple Syrup Show and Ludology podcasts, both fantastic podcasts on game design that I recommend you check out if you like game design. or just games in general, I suppose, just to hear how people approach it. Sen is also a professor of developmental psychology, and I've just written at a university in Canada because I actually never asked you if you wanted to tell or if it was something that because I don't know what the right thing to do with that particular stuff is. So you're at just a university in Canada. So
actually, I'm at a college, which is different.
college.
So college and universities are semi-different things. It's not quite the same as in America when you think of a college versus university, but I don't even know how to explain it anymore because a lot of colleges now offer like full degree level things, but we just don't usually offer like masters or PhDs.
Which we have a similar stuff in Australia, which
like
we call TAFE, which is a technical and further education. And so usually, traditionally, there's been a lot of trades. Like I've been to TAFE when I studied graphic design years ago. But then a lot of TAFEs are now starting to offer exactly what you said, some more university level, like bachelors and stuff. So yeah. Okay, so you're a developmental psychology professor at a college in Canada, and you also have a Kickstarter starting on February 28th for the Revenance Society.
I do.
Revenance Society, which is an RPG that it's been co-authored with Banana Chan, and it's been published by Van Ryder Games. And I think we have a banner for that. I think we have a banner for that. There's a banner for that. For anyone, and we will afterwards. We'll put this link in the description of the YouTube video. It's not there currently because I did not know about it until 5 minutes ago. So
which is totally okay.
So Kat's saying, just to really confuse things, in New Zealand, high school is called college, and then you go to university. So just thanks New Zealand, just really confusing the issue.
Mess us all up.
Okay, and to address some of our things, we also have Jay in the chat as well. Hi Jay, and yes, we're live in the morning. So for those of us in Australia, it is the morning. For me, it's about 11 a.m. or about 10 past 11. For people like Kate, it's about 10 a.m. just after 10 a.m. So it's the morning.
Yeah. The West Australians are just starting to caffeinate their day.
True to be. What are we in Western Australia? A couple of hours later, so it'll be probably about
just after
8 or 9.
Just after 8. 2 hours behind
normal
you. Time.
So 3 hours behind.
You're 3 hours.
So now you're seeing some class divisions between Queenslanders and everyone else, where they think because they don't do daylight savings that they're superior.
There's a whole no, we don't. There's a whole joke.
Did you know that there's a place in Canada that there's just a half an hour difference?
Oh, we have that in South
we have that as well.
So bizarre. Like, why did you even do that?
If for the nerds out here, I spent a couple hours with my parents about 6 months ago, and we were looking at all the time zone divisions on the maps in the world, and seeing how arbitrary they are to try and make people feel comfortable that they're in the one time zone, but it's not following any kind of logic. It's quite the map is quite interesting.
In China, there's only one time zone, so
Mike, we won't tell if you don't.
That's right.
Did you say there's only one time zone in Canada?
No, in China.
Oh, China. Yeah, exactly. China's a huge one where they've done that, and yet obviously the reality is the sun is going to be coming up at different times.
It's all messed up. Yeah. It's very imperialistic, is what it is. So everything runs around Beijing.
So but do you know? This is an aside, and maybe someone will make a game from this. But do you know why we even have universal time at all? Like where the origin of that is?
Like universal time, or like this time?
UTC. So the universal time stuff is the UTC, and that's coming from Greenwich Mean Time. Like that's the thing. You know why they even bothered to make that at all? Have you heard the story?
I mean, from what I understand, I thought it was about harvesting things, but it could not. It could totally not be that.
Trains. It's trains. So basically, every town used to have their own town clock, and they would have it set so that when the sun was in the middle, it was midday, right, for their area. And so the midday was different all across the countryside. And then when trains started happening, people would be hopping on a train and going to different destinations, and their watches and stuff would all be like it'd all go weird because local time was different. So then for a period of time, there are clocks that you can see that have 2-hour hands and 2-minute hands, and they've got 2 rows of numbers, one for the local time and one for the train standard time. And then they rationalized it all to just generic Greenwich Mean Time to make it more system, and then countries followed it. But then there's still weird stuff, like there's a Tom Scott video showing how in one of the Dutch countries, I can't remember which one, they are also doing their own version of the time stuff, but based on Greenwich Mean. But it's all crazy. The time is such a funny concept, and how we rationalize it is really interesting.
It really is.
I think it is fodder for a game, though. I think so. If people want to work on a time game that's not necessarily time travel, although it would be time travel if you're traveling forward in time, right? Anyway, there's scope there. That's my nerdy. Was it fact of the day? Maybe.
Yeah. My nerdy fact for the day is Joel was telling me that at some period, like in the last 20 years, Swatch went. We have this amazing idea, like Swatch, the people who make the
watches
things. Yeah.
There's the whistle again.
Yeah. If I can't come up with words, I'll just make a random sound effect and wave my hands a lot. They came up with a scheme for this kind of a universal time where everybody would have the same thing. So you didn't have to worry about any of the, hang on, what time zone are you? So what does that make it when I'm here? So my plane leaves at this time and I get in at X. Oh, is that time there or is that the time here? That kind of didn't take off.
It didn't take. So it was a whole different thing again. Yeah, that's the funny thing. It's survivorship bias. Like someone was talking. I was at a game convention just recently, and we were some conversation came up about how like stuff was better in the past, right? And that's funny. That stuff was better in the past, but one of the things, so things like technology, like cars, quality of products, they didn't fail as quickly and all this kind of stuff. But someone else pointed out, and I can't remember if it was me or somebody else, so I'm not going to take all the credit, but we were like, well, that's a survivorship bias thing. We're only seeing now the ones that did last. They were the better quality, or they were the ones that society chose to remember. And there's a whole lot of other things that have happened and gone away.
So we've got people in the comments planning a new game already based on, time.
Perfect.
Excellent. We expect royalties.
Okay. This is going to get a very small royalty then.
You're welcome.
These ways.
Yeah.
All
right. We need to do a bit of housekeeping.
We do. But is there any other comments that we want to just get to before we do that? So we've got Richard. Is that what you were talking about?
Yeah. So that'd make a great game. And I think I'm not sure if Kat was referring to Richard's idea or if just talking about time in general, but
Yeah. Oh, I would hope to be. I want to see it as a new genre. We have like 50 games that are all dealing with measuring time and making it, useful or whatever. Or looking at history.
Game that you have to play across different time zones. I don't know how it works, but someone go and make that.
Funny. Okay, so let's jump into the housekeeping. So we have some housekeeping to deal with today, and we are excited to let you know that the next module from Launch Tabletop, which is called Stella, is now being actually talked about, and we're talking about it publicly more, and we're announcing it, I suppose. So, Kate, do you want to talk about it? I'll bring up the.
This is the back of it.
Okay, hang on.
That's the back of it. So, it's lovely. This one's by Ian O'Toole. Ooh. And it looks like this. It's printed on metal. Can you see that little bit of lovely reflective ooh? So this is Stella. Do you want to toss that document up there, Eris?
Yeah.
Stella is our attempt. No, it's not an attempt. It's a bona fide
it's real.
Yeah. The financial pressures on publishers and people making art are immense. It's not an industry where anybody's driving around in a Lamborghini, as James Hudson likes to say. So we're looking for ways that we can support people who are making these fantastic games. A lot of money gets put into art, making art. It's a huge investment. And we were going, well, what can we do to, help people? If people who really, really like games could get their favorite games on beautiful printed plates to go on their wall, like you can see in the picture there, we could help them cover some of those costs just a little bit more. So we're launching Stella. There will be other products as well that we bring in, but at the moment it's metal plates. You can get them in squares, you can get them in rectangles, or you will be able to get them as soon as the website goes live, which is a huge focus of my day at the moment. So yes, If you think that you might have some art that would go well on that, and you have to have a license or actually own the IP outright to be able to do this, it's not just somebody goes, random thing, I love this game, I'm going to sell a print. Has to be yours. You have to be allowed to do that.
So. You may have mentioned this, and I was trying to catch up with comments in our comment section, so I may not have heard it. But we're approaching this as a partnership, so it's people aren't just able to upload their own assets and start selling immediately. Where they reach out to us, we reach back to them and go through a process of basically, I can't think of the right word. It's like, I'm going to say authentication, but it's not really authentication. It's kind of anyway, there's a process just to make sure that all parties know what's going on and everyone's happy with the arrangement. And obviously we need to curate what we're offering as well and be mindful of that too. So
yes. So one of the things also, it's not just for publishers and game designers who are, publishing their own things. It's also for board game artists who are loved in the industry, because I know that a lot of them have not little, but works stuck away in the drawer that aren't doing anything. So if they're like, I think my fans would love this, we would love to help you get it out there and share it with people so they can have gorgeous things.
Catherine said
make them
the
feel
word
happy.
Forwards validation.
Yeah,
I think it's a bit more than validation, only in the sense that we are like validation to me. Maybe I'm used to thinking of Launch Lab. It's like a technical thing. Do you meet XYZ technical requirements? Whereas this is also about like
dotting the I's and crossing the T's,
but also making sure that there is kind of a bit of a cohesive stellar, I guess, vibe about the products that are there. Like, we know they're all of a certain quality. We know they're all of like, there's certain topics that we're not going to show, things like that. So anyway, but if you have any questions or are interested, then just go to launchtabletop.com and then go to the Stellar page to register your interest, or you can use the QR code that's there, or you can go to that. There you go. There's a direct link as well to app.launchtabletop.com/stellar/EOI. And you can register your interest and someone will get back to you. Okay, so let's move on from that. How do I get, I'm so good with all this technology and pressing buttons and everything. It's really good.
There we go.
There we go. Whew, I need to get one of those little like physical button things that professional streamers have.
Like an Elgato.
Yeah, one of those things. All right, so we're going to move into the first. We've got our interview divided into two parts. So we're just going to move to the first part now. And I just want to say, so our topic for today is psychology of games. So Sen, correct me if I'm wrong, but as far as I'm aware, tabletop games don't have brains. So how can they have psychology? So
they do not.
So I think there's a flaw already in this this plan of us to talk about this topic.
You made the title. I did not make the title. You picked the title.
Did I? I swear you made it. I genuinely
did not
check my messages.
Well, I mean, maybe, I don't know, but I'm going to blame it on you. Totally going to blame it on you.
It was a rapid conversation and something happened and that's what fell out. So dad jokes aside, what do you mean by the psychology of games?
So what I mean by the psychology of games is the psychology that we use when we design games in order to predict player behavior, shape player behavior, anticipate player behavior, drive player behavior in certain ways. So psychology in of itself, generally speaking, is like the study of human behavior and thought and processes and things like that. My specific area of study is development. So I'm a pediatric therapist, and so I study kids, little itty bitty kids. But development is something that happens across the age span. So from the day you're born to the day you die, you are developing. Whether or not it's positive development or negative development, you're still doing it. And so I use a lot of the skills and the science behind human development in how I design my games, in terms of, well, lots of things, but we can get into all those as we get questions and we think about case studies and whatnot. So but using my understanding of human behavior in order to make a game that resonates well with people, I think is usually what I'm looking to do. To capture some, the vibe. 'Cause I mean, People are very funny that way. Like they just catch that vibe and it feels right. And part of that is due to good psychology and using it in the right way. Yeah. So you had a question?
Do you find that, because there's a part of my arty brain that says scientific methodology applied to creative works doesn't always yield enjoyable works. Sometimes it does.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
As in because sometimes we're too focused on, I don't know, whatever it is. But like, and I guess an obvious example, which some people wouldn't like, would be to take the word of painting, where you got ones that are very kind of like, grid based and regular spacing and whatever. And I personally love that kind of artwork. That's absolutely my cup of tea. So I'm probably different, but I know a lot of lay people look at that and go, it's just a bunch of squares, like like or whatever. And I think, and the way the kind of connection I'm making there is that obviously that's looking for a lot of them were trying to use color science and color theory that was still being developed, like, and understood in the late 1800s, early 20th century, and it can create a coldness potentially. So but I guess where you're coming from, if I'm understanding, is because it's the foundation of this like scientific research and methodology is all about human, like humanity and humans' responses to stuff. I guess it inherently has that kind of human
warmth, it's kind of like,
or not really.
It's sort of like if you pull back the curtain, if you go look at the great wonderful Oz and see the wizard behind the curtain, you'll go, oh, that's what you're doing.
Yeah.
You're using
this analogy.
Psychology.
You're Oz. You're the wizard.
Well, the game designer's the wizard, right? Or whoever,
Yeah.
And if you pull it back far enough, and if you know enough about, basic science and basic psychology, you go, oh, that's what's happening here. But you can do that with anything. Like, so I talk a lot in my classes about, so I'm, by training, I'm a developmentalist with a lot of focus on behaviorism and Vygotsky and social cultural theory. So Vygotsky was like an educational psychologist who talked a lot about learning. And I also do a lot of work with flow, which is Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi's theory of flow, which is basically about how do we keep engaged in something longer. So much so that we lose track of time. And so those two theorists, one of them's talking about flow, one of them's talking about teaching. How do we teach people? And then the other thing that I do a lot of work on is behavioral science. So operant conditioning, which is, B.F. Skinner stuff, where we're talking about reward structures, punishment structures, all that type of stuff, positive, negative reinforcement, positive, negative punishment, things that people like misnomer all the time and don't really get, but we still use them in science, and we use them in practical ways. And if you looked at, say, do you guys have anything in Australia where you collect points when you go to a store?
Yeah.
Yes. So that's just psychology at play, right? That's just saying, okay, we are going to incentivize you to shop at our store by giving these points. These points, you can reward yourself with these points if you decide to trade them in. And when you trade them in, you're going to get these wonderful things, right? And you guys might be old enough to remember that way back in the day, you didn't, instantly redeem these points. You had to like look in a catalog and right away and send these things. And they sent you these catalogs like incessantly, even when you didn't want them. And the reason why is because they need to remind you that this is a good thing. You should still keep on collecting these. Even if you don't have enough point for the thing you want, this is what you could possibly get. Right. And if you think about that, and you think about stuff like what happens in a casino, what happens in a casino when you pull a handle? What's happening?
You get that little rush of maybe it'll come up this time.
Right. And so what if it does? What happens in the casino?
Bing, 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 flashing lights.
Yeah, see, I just did that so that Kate could make sound effects. But yeah, so you get flashing lights and you get sound effects and you get all these things. Do you know who that's for? Is that for the person who wins?
No, it's for everybody else.
It literally is for everybody else. And what is it telling everybody else?
You can win too.
That they could win too, right? So they are using psychology to enhance an experience, sure, but also to keep your ass in the seat, right? Putting coins in that slot machine. So these are engines that are made to predict and to entice you to behave in certain ways, right? And we can do that in game design because all a slot machine is a game, right? It's not a really good game, but it's a game.
It's a very expensive game.
Right. And so we can use similar types of conditioning science. We can use certain types of other sciences and other types of psychology when we design games in a more fulsome manner to really help people engage, to help people learn the rules, and to help the game kind of resonate broadly with the audience, so they feel like it's synergistic, like the sum of the parts is not as much as the whole experience. The whole experience is greater than the sum of its own parts. So we use a lot of different psychological techniques to sort of enhance a game's impact, because it just makes sense when you study human behavior and you study human thoughts and that kind of stuff. There's a way to enhance all of that through tried and true methodology that we've learned through the study of science and psychology in general.
We might take a.
When you're, I was going to say, just following up on that.
Okay.
When you're designing a game, are you sitting there watching and going, "This is what's missing"? Insert name of researcher.
Can we pause that? I'll let you think about that. We're going to do. Yeah. We're going to take a break and do our Launch Lab ad, because I think that question ties into some other ones that we're planning on for the second half. So, Are you okay just to pin that?
Yeah.
And then we will do the Launch Lab video. So this is Launch Lab, which you'll find out in the video what it is.
Launch Lab.
Hey.
Sorry, I was supposed to be clicking.
Launch Lab. Launch Lab is our small batch print-on-demand service for tabletop games. Whether you want just 1 or 1,000, we have you covered. Select from our library of components to build your next game. We offer high-quality printing and components at a competitive price with fast production time, shipped to almost anywhere in the world. Go to launchtabletop.com to sign up for a free account and start prototyping now. Use the coupon code Materialise, that's MATERIALISE, at checkout to get 20% discount off your next order before shipping.
And we had a very fun comment from Catherine just there, Launch Lab the remix, because we had our false starts then, and it was so well done. So Launch Lab. Now, I've got some exciting news. I put my first prototype through Launch Lab, and it arrived. It arrived about 20 minutes before we were going to go live on the stream. So I'm
amazed that you were able to restrain yourself from ripping it open.
Oh, look, when you know you're going to be on the phone with Kate and Sen, the other things are lower priorities. So
there you go.
So I'm just going to open this up and quickly show everyone what I got. I've started opening it, so
now I know someone's going to look and go, "Oh, the side of that box is open." Yes, it is, because we've pre-opened some of the tape.
I did two of the.
It wasn't a total fight with the sticky tape and the scissors.
Well, I thought I didn't want to spend 15 minutes of the stream of me just struggling with how to use scissors and cutting open things. Okay, so we've got. So this is, by the way, just for all of our audience, this is new to me. This is my very first order from Launch Lab and the system. So I'm experiencing this in real time with you about how they pack things and what they do. So there's some protective packaging just on top there. This kind of like foam stuff. Oh, okay. So that's my game, which I decided to call. I don't know if it's going to show up there. It's my fancy prototype. So because it's not just hand scribbles on bits of paper. So I got a few copies of it because I wanted to have a few to try out. And then we've also
bust one open.
I will, but I also wanted to show the other thing that I knew that had been included in this particular one is my first copy of our technical deck. So those who've watched the show,
this is not a sample.
That's right. Those who've watched the show, I didn't even bring it into the office with me. It's in my bedroom. We've been talking about this tech deck for quite a while now.
Yes.
So this is
I have brandished it at Sen previously.
Yes, it's been brandished.
Is that the new one, or is that the
no? This is the original one. Okay. The test that we had printed up.
It's been brandished many a time.
It has.
And just to be real with everyone who's watching, we made the tech deck and other stuff, but partly because we obviously feel like it's useful tools for other people, but we're using them all the time too. So we've been trying to go through some color matching for our website. website and promotions and
doing a little bit of revision of the orange.
And so we've had multiple meetings where we've had our tech decks out, we've had Pantone swatch books out, we've had website things, Photoshop open, the whole works, and trying to make
literally referring to this specific swatch here.
Yes.
yeah. And it actually has been really satisfying to know that it's useful. Now I'm terrible at opening plastic things.
I see Matthias Bonici in the chat. Matthias is a graphic designer who did a lot of work on Juncture with myself and Banana Chan. Matthias, you should get this tech deck. I think you'd love it. It's like all this stuff about pre-press and printing and technical specs of, you get your whatever printer you're working with to print it out, and then you can see everything about their process and what it looks like when it's printed onto a substrate. Fancy prototype version 1.0.
Yeah, so I've called. Well, it's because I knew I didn't want it. It doesn't have all handwritten scribble on it yet. So I've opted for a linen finish, and then to enhance that, I put a linen texture on the graphic as well, the graphic design. All right.
I was having an interesting discussion, or I heard an interesting discussion about linen finish the other day.
Nice.
Thick. Yeah. The box is very sturdy for those who are concerned about that kind of thing.
I think everybody should be concerned about sturdy boxes.
Yeah, but we know that there's some, like I get ones, like I've even had some recently, some mass-produced ones which were printed by Ludofact. Who are like obviously absolute high-level manufacturer, but the box felt quite thin. So they've made a choice, obviously, to go with a thinner stock for that. So I've got some punchboard coins.
Can you punch one out right now?
I can, and on the back they're all. I've got them so that you can have them as hidden, points that you've got during the game. I can punch one out. It's funny. I don't love punching stuff out. I normally wait with my games until I'm at a game day with someone and say, "Hey, those that love it, you can punch all the stuff out," because I'm not that into it. But here we go. There's one done.
Oh, very nice.
Okay, now do it properly and through one of those holes so it goes flying.
No, I don't want to do that. You're not going to control me because it's going to go on my desk and I'll lose it. I would punch into I can do it into the lid of the box maybe.
Yeah,
that's how I do things. I'm too not fun. I'm a boring person, obviously.
Kat says punch, punch, punch.
Well, I can't get this on the camera. Hang on. If I put my box there, maybe, and hope that it doesn't squash. Oh, I can't do this, folks. This is gonna. Oh, it didn't punch out properly. I didn't press hard enough. Oh, I didn't do it again. We're getting danglies.
That's kind of what I wanted to see.
Yeah. So that's happened. I'll just pull these off gently.
Because
you're making me.
We got the Return to the Dark Tower game, and when my kids were home for Christmas break, we opened that because I don't open my games that I get from Kickstarter until they come home, and it was a beautiful punching experience. It's just
good.
So it was like luxurious. When you punch it, just goes out into the box.
There's a little insert. So one thing with Launch Lab is you don't get to choose the insert. That's the factory basically will custom make that depending on the bits that you're ordering to help fit stuff in. So that's just something. It's some people might look at that as a positive or a negative. For me, it was fine. I didn't have to think about an insert, so that saved me some time. So I've got 3 different size cards. I've got some square cards,
3 different size cards,
and I've got poker size and tarot size with the Grapes of Destiny. So anyway, and the game of my game.
ASMRing it for Kat.
I don't know how to ASMR anything. I just think it's.
No, that's okay. I'm gonna have to hire you in the future to do this for real. Like if I'm doing a product thing, I'll have Sen in the background just ASMRing stuff. I won't open all these because it'll take forever, and I'm terrible at opening plastic items. But cards, yeah. So that's what I got. I will quickly open up the text.
Thanks, Zoe.
What did Zoe say?
We all look fabulous.
We look fabulous.
Fabulous. Fabulous I can get behind.
Yeah, I think fabulous is a great word.
It says so much.
It really does. There's like many syllables and it kind of rolls off the tongue.
And it feels nice to say as well.
It's got a good mouthfeel. Fabulous.
Just getting the plastic off the tech deck.
Oh, this is the new tech deck.
Yeah, so this is the actual...
The proper one, which we fixed some things that we wanted to change in it. And so it's now in a tuck box. So it says Launch Tabletop Deck Tech. So one of the things is this says Launch Lab Edition. We haven't rolled them out yet, but we are planning on having a downloadable edition. So anyone can download it and then send that PDF to whatever printer they use so that they can use the features of this to see what colors are like and the font sizing and stuff. Or if they're wanting to do it on their home printer or like a cheap local, like in Australia, we have a company called Officeworks, and I think in America it's like Kinko's. Are they still around? Are they?
Staples.
I think so. Staples. Kinko's.
Yeah. So the idea is that with the Tech Deck, the download edition, when we get it, you'll be able to do that. We also long term, we haven't yet done it yet. We also plan on having a offset printed version so that we can also compare between the print on demand colors and the offset colors, but that again hasn't been done. So
we're also releasing it under Creative Commons so that if people want to remix it, they can. They just need to, give us some attribution in there as the originators
and not sell it as a thing.
Yes,
I think it's a not for sale, like a Creative Commons thing, because this is supposed to be primarily a useful tool for everyone.
That's a great idea, Kat. So talking about the whole fabulous, if you've got leftover cards in your deck when you're doing print on demand, chuck an extra one in that just says, "You look fabulous today."
Well, the other
I love that. That's so cool.
If you're doing the PAD stuff, so we've in our Discord, which we will promote later on, but Kate might bring up the banner now. We talk about production and game design and stuff in there, and someone was talking about what shade of rich black, like how to get a rich black, and Nick made a suggestion, which was a really good one. And then I said, well, if you've got in your prototype, if you've got extra cards, just print a card that has swatches on it, and then you can compare in the future. Okay, if I use 100%,
this is what pure black looks like.
50% cyan, it'll work.
This mix, that mix.
So I've just noticed one problem with this, Kate.
Yes, Boo?
The cards are backwards to how my brain thinks of them. That's okay. So we've got the last card first. That's all right. We've got card 48 at the end. And then on the other end, we've got the actual beginning of it. So I'll need to talk to Nick about us reversing the order of the cards.
Oh, I see.
It starts on page 1, but we've got the card back. So for those who don't know, I'll just do a very quick tech deck demonstration. The card backs have the grid is 1 millimeter lines, and the registration marks are proper registration.
Actual registration
that means
marks.
They're using all 4 inks. So the 100% C, 100% Y, 100% K, 100% M. The middle, hard to think. The middle obviously has a variety of colors, so you can kind of get that. And then part of the point is that you can compare across the deck how the drift and stuff's working. So drift is when a card shifts in printing. All printers have drift. That's normal, but this is just to let you know, give you some idea on how your printer.
How egregious it is. Some printers have a lot of drift. Some are very good. It is worth actually bearing in mind that printers with reputation for really good drift, as in hardly any, usually that's achieved by printing a lot more overage and discarding a lot more.
Yeah,
which is often why those higher quality manufacturers are more expensive, because they're discarding more.
Right. So we can see line thicknesses here, so you can get an idea on how thick or thin that your lines can go on a solid black background or a white background.
And that will definitely change between manufacturers.
And then we have, oh no, I'm dropping cards. Rushing. And then we have some font sample cards. So basically, let's use Firo Sans. So it shows you fonts in various sizes, going down to absolutely tiny. I think it's like 2
point. Yeah, we felt 1 point would just look like.
I took the sample of this to CanCon, and I did have people reading out that 2-point font, and I was blown away because I couldn't do it. And then this shows the weights of the fonts. So obviously we aren't saying these fonts are the best in the world and everyone should use them. It's just I tried to pick a variety of fonts that would hopefully give people an idea of how the font they want to use would work. And then the other big thing is the color swatches. So we have all these color swatch cards. and Kate's favourite one is somewhere here.
The Lego shop, the lolly shop.
Oh, I don't know where it is. I've lost it.
It's right after the CMYK. Like the cards with the actual.
Yes.
CMYK.
There we go.
Cha-ching.
So basically, how these work is it shows you the color and then it shows you the CMYK mix down the side. All right. I'll stop talking about Tech Deck now because this is just something I can talk about for a while, and we will return. So anyway, that's Launch Lab stuff and some of the quality that's come from it. My game, I'm really happy with. I think it looks lovely. It feels good.
Excellent.
So yeah, exciting. And for those who want to try it out as well, if you sign up for Launch Lab and put an order through, if you use the code Materialise, you will get 20% off your first order. That's before shipping, so not including shipping. Okay, let's move on to the rest. So what was the thing that I asked you to think about that Kate had asked? I've actually forgotten the question now.
I forget to.
I did, and then I remembered when you're working on a game and you're sort of watching, you're sitting there going,
"Oh, about the theorist."
Researcher pops to mind. Are you thinking about it in that kind of granular fashion, or is it more?
Not really.
Fluid?
It's more fluid than that. It's usually when somebody questions me on why I do something that I go and bring out, the journal or something, or the textbook or whatever. It's like, well, based on this science, this is where this is why I'm trying this out, right? But most of the stuff is a little more organic than that. I'm not designing with saying, here's this exact theory in action. Although I can point to a lot of games and tell you where theories are in action, whether it's intentional or not, it follows it, right? Because a lot of the design that is intentionally trying to bring out a feeling or have an experience is, basically kind of tapping into the overall human experience, which can often be explained by psychology, right? So in some way, shape, or form. So no, I'm not necessarily saying I'm going to use, Brofenbenner's ecological theory here or whatever. But if somebody says, well, why did you do that? I can then explain it. Well, here we go with, Pavlovian conditioning and antecedent conditioning or whatever, right? So yeah, that Flubble's theorem of deck building is really helpful.
That must be a joke I've missed. I don't know Flubble.
No, there's no such thing. That's why. Oh,
okay. There is a lot of fan theories though. Like I find that playing games with invested players or people that love their game of choice, or especially if it's a more media game, they certainly have their own ideas around what the psychology is at play, and which I find interesting to listen to, because sometimes I feel like it's not at all what I would have assumed the game designer is, intending or putting in there. But yeah, I think we all kind of do it, those who play a lot of games and try and work it out. One thing I was thinking though, Sen, as you were describing it, I know for me, in my professional capacities as a graphic designer, and then in other fields where I've got experience, I know a lot more theory than I think I know. Like sometimes someone will say, why did you do that? And then I'll be like, oh, okay, let me just unpack it, because there's a whole lot of stuff that happens that I wasn't aware. I was just intuiting, or that an experience had taught me, and I was just then doing based on that. And I'm assuming that a similar thing kind of will happen with you. Like you might have this understanding, but you're not always consciously like thinking, I've got to apply this theory, or do you?
Well, so in practice, what we have to do is we always have to explain our clinical rationale as to why we're doing treatment in a certain way, right? So if I pick a treatment process for a person I'm supporting, a person I'm treating, whatever, I have to explain in documentation why I pick that way. And so the whys are always based on this theoretical perspective, blah, 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 blah. This is the theory. This is the theory. Here's the practice. And the practice looks like this. And the practice would be the execution of whatever the treatment plan is. I want this person to do X, Y, and Z, but it's always based on a theoretical perspective, so that if another therapist or another professional is reading the documentation, they know what's going on up here in my head as a clinician, saying, this is why this person is doing this thing. Because people can do the same thing all the time. People do the same thing all the time, but there may be different reasons why people do the same thing. And the clinicians have to explain that why you recommend certain treatment plans, why you want people to do certain things, why you want them to even just journal, or why you want them to go to this appointment versus that appointment, or why you're referring them to this doctor versus that doctor. It all has to be justified through clinical knowledge of the theories, right? Because in a country like Canada, where our healthcare system is very socialized, like Australia, we only really actually allow treatments that are evidence-based, right? So that there's a body of evidence. There has to be a body of evidence for a treatment to be allowed. And so theoretical practices allow us to then drive towards evidence. And that evidence then supports what the treatment's going to be for said person, right? So it's just justification.
Yeah. I feel like you took that in a direction I wasn't expecting, which is a good direction. I'm all for it. I think what I was more meaning in relation to game design. Are you thinking
but
about
sure, the same thing.
Like, so you actually do think about a lot of the theoretical underpinning of the work as you're making a game, or do you just go, hey, this is fun, this is cool? Like,
not necessarily as I'm making the game, but like I said to Kate, to justify why I believe this number should be this, or this many cards should be given, or all that. There's evidence that I'm using to base my decisions on. It's not just I think 5 cards is a good number of cards or whatever. So
how do you? So just as a sidestep on that though, because connected to that topic would be math, and I know for me, I failed math in school like many times, and I only really started to get better at it when I became a game designer, because I forced myself to learn different elements to understand like distribution or like probabilities or whatever things that might actually impact, how a play game is played. But one thing that I've discovered personally, and I've heard other game designers talk about on podcasts and other places, is that sometimes the mathematically, I'm going to say, perfect solution isn't the fun. Like, it doesn't actually help with the fun, or it actually hinder. Like, you don't have to be as precise to still get good results.
No, so unless your players are mathematically extremely competent at calculating on the fly, it's more about the perception of fairness, right? Balance is a perception as opposed to pure mathematics. The other problem with pure mathematics is that you get into this kind of endless tug of war where nothing progresses because you're too balanced, right? And so when we usually talk about balance in game design, we're not actually meaning mathematical balance. Some people think we do mean that, but I think most experienced game designers would say that's not actually what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, does somebody feel like this is fair? Or
it's balancing the entire experience. Is there enough predictability? Is there enough fun? Is there enough whatever it is that you need to have?
Do I have enough agency within the constraints of the game? Because that's, what a lot of people play games for, is not to have the game play them, but for them to play the game. And when we get people worrying about mathematical balance, there's definitely something to that. Some people really like that. Some people like finding the exploits in certain games where it's like, what do you mean a plasma rifle only costs 2 points? That thing does so much damage. Everybody should get plasma rifles. And you have this whole army that's now armed with plasma rifles because they're 2 points instead of a laser rifle, which is 3 points, but doesn't do as much damage. Why doesn't it? Right? So people will exploit that because, people like that kind of hack. They like finding out those things. And it also does depend on the type of player, right? Players who are into, profile wise, we'd say they're into like system mastery, where they like to find the breaking points, where they like to push the envelope, where they like to find the exploits, and they like to do the math. Those are the people who, will find those little tricks and make
exploit
them. They're very into the meta of the game, like the game outside of the game. And for them, the meta isn't the social part. The meta is the mathematical part. But there's other people who are into the social meta of gaming, and there's people who are both.
Yeah, and I know for a while, for a few years, I played Magic and did Friday Night Magic and stuff, and there was people there who were like, they would either be building decks themselves or using the decks that other people had built.
Like net decking,
but they would be like, okay, if I have this distribution, then I'm likely to hit this, and this this point, and this is like, how things should play out, and if I do this, there's going to be all these combo of like ways that I kind of maximize the turn and all these things. Whereas like I was a bit more basic. I'm just like, just kind of, I'm happy for the uncertainty to happen and then just kind of deal with things when they occur, and the more spontaneous feeling. But it was just interesting how some of these people really like analyzed it down, and that also where they got fun. So like, yeah.
Have you ever heard of the psychographics from Magic the Gathering?
I have not.
So Magic is a very, very well developed and kind of a storied history. Like it's ancient now. It's quite old. It's quite an old game.
94 or 93 or something it came out, I think.
Yeah, around then. Yeah. And so psychographics are like a methodology of studying a consumer-based profile, really, right? And so what Magic has done through Mark Rosewater usually has come up with a bunch of different player types. And they originally started with 3 player types, 3 psychographic types, Timmy, Johnny, and Spike. And those original 3 kind of said, are you that player who's like a power player who just wants to deal a lot of damage? Or are you the creative player who wants to do these other things? Or are you, the player who picks the cards because of the art or the name on it? There's different player types. And those aren't actually Timmy, Johnny, and Spike. There's actually another whole bunch that they came up with after they played it for another decade and figured out that people play games for very different reasons, right? And it sort of is mapped to your personality. And personality is mostly genetic. We think right now we have more evidence that it's genetic, personality being tied to what we call temperament as a baby. So if you've had children, if you know kids, if you're around kids a lot, they don't necessarily have a personality, but they for sure have a temperament, right? They have, they're slow to warm up, or they approach things that are new very cautiously maybe, or they don't, and they're really in there like a dirty shirt. And those types of temperament traits eventually get into what we call the big 5 of personality, which is OCEAN, ocean. So it's like your openness, your irritability, and so that's the N is neuroticism, irritability, all that kind of stuff. I just taught this today in my brain. I'm just having a brain fart.
Yeah, we can. Our audience can look it up later.
Yeah,
just Google ocean. I'm sure you'll find it.
Yeah, so ocean or canoe, it spells both of those. Big 5, the big 5 personality theories. Anyways, psychographics and why people like games is usually because it tweaks something, or it gives them some feels, a vibe, if you will, in terms of part of their personality. And so Magic the Gathering got really good at designing cards and card sets and card combos for specific player types, for specific player psychographics, right? So they would say, this is a combo that a Spike type of player would like. This is a combo that a Timmy type of player would like. And it became kind of a really good way for them to think about design with psychology as kind of the backbone of it, right? So this is this psychographic type, their personality lends them towards these types of things. How do we make cards and combinations and sets that feed into that, because they will chase those cards. They will want to play those cards, right? So they're incentivizing and driving behavior by creating cards that basically feed that feel, right? They're feeding the feeling that you want, which is why, when I think about game design, I don't think about mechanics. I don't think about theme. Eventually I do, but I think about experience first, right? Because the theme and the mechanics create the experience. But I always look at games first and foremost as an experience in a box. And it's a very curated experience in the box. Like, I have an idea of what I want it to feel like, for me, for sure. But I hope that feeling gets translated to other people. And by having that as kind of the high level goal of having an experience, then I build all the mechanics and the thematics to support that, like they're walls of a house. And they crosstalk. So a theme should inform a mechanic, and a mechanic should inform a theme, and both of those things combined should hold up the roof that's the experience of the game itself, right?
I
Yeah, there
have
you
a
go.
lot of questions, but we've had some people. I just want to raise one that Kat mentioned earlier, or Catherine
Yeah.
mentioned earlier in the thing, which is so. Are there any connections between perceived game weight and the types and number of components?
Oh, I mean, yeah. You could go even simpler than that, Cat, and just go to the box size, right? And say, like, when you look at the shelf and you look at the box size, and you know for a fact that inside there's not, it doesn't fill the box. It's like a bag of chips, a bag of crisps, whatever you call them in Australia or New Zealand, right?
Chips.
Chips. We know in our head, logically, that there's less in the bag and there's more air in the bag than there are chips. But if we ever package them to the size that they should be, we would think that we're getting ripped off, right? And so, yeah, there is a big psychological
But
factor with those types of
just to
things. Yeah.
nitpick that particular point, isn't the air in the bag also there to protect the product?
Sure. And the same thing
Like,
with
that's
your with the sizing in your game. A lot of times, that, like, when you pointed out the insert in your box, inserts in boxes aren't actually there to hold stuff. They're there to protect it during transit, first and
Yeah.
foremost, right?
Yep.
Now, really nice ones, of course, they have functionality to them, but a lot of people just chuck them. But I'm looking behind you, Eris, and you see, like, the Scout box and all the boxes of the Oink games are very small, but they have an aesthetic, right? There is a real purposeful aesthetic to that particular brand, that particular company. So I have the very first, I think it might be the very first game that Oink ever made, which is not in that size. It's actually like this kind of just a regular size card box.
That one's a thinner, an older one, which is thinner.
Yeah. And they'll all still have the same kind of frontage. But the older one didn't. The older one was more like a double deck of cards size of things.
Yep.
And they have really kind of fallen into this small size with this glossy cover, with this, very simple art as a look, as a brand. That's their brand, right?
Yes.
And the thing is that they would probably be remiss to change box size, because so many people.
Well, didn't they? My understanding was that they had some of their games are in Target USA and are in a bigger box because Target changed it.
They might be, but that's Target. That's like that's the price you have to pay to dance with the devil, my friend.
Yeah. No, but it's also that, because obviously I think my understanding, and I could be wrong here, and someone correct me, is that Target sort of adopted that they needed a box that would be bigger so more people buy it, basically.
Yes.
Like
that's exactly it, because
and also can hang from a hanger, like has the tab at the top.
The mentality of different people in different countries towards buying product is different, right? So in Japan, where Oink is from, everything is very much minimalist, because it's a very small country comparatively, with a lot of people who have very small spaces to live in and play in. And also, the game companies in Japan typically are not big game companies. A lot of them, most of them are small, like a couple people making games by hand and selling them at Tokyo Game Market, right? There's only a few companies that are huge in terms of like ArcLight and Bandai and stuff like that. But any of the other ones are really very much indie companies, and they may not have the size, the space to store things. And so size becomes a factor. But that does go towards, like what Catherine's saying, that there is sometimes we associate things like value with certain markers of value. So in all sorts of things, any fandom, anything that you're like geeking out about, you might know this. So for me, because I'm a DJ, when there's music and you buy like a record, and it's pretty funny, like it's invariably a record from the US was maybe like, $15, and a record from Canada might have been $11. But if it was from the UK, didn't matter if the song was better. Part of it, yes, it's because it's imported, but part of it is just the cachet that it has. It's from the UK. It's got to be good, right? And so it was like $19, right? And so you can price things because of the psychological advantage of time, space, place, depending on what the actual demand is, it doesn't really matter what the contents of the box is at some point. That weight and value will be attributed to things like, it's got to be good because it has all these parts. Right. And when you're not so savvy, a game buyer, a game consumer, you'll honestly think that. You know, at the first level, it's like, oh, look, it's got all these fancy bits. It's got to be good. And you'll buy it and you'll pay money for it. And then there's a sunk cost fallacy. You will initially think, oh, this is good because I spent like $100 on it. So there's all sorts of factors that go into all of this. So yeah.
Catherine expanded, saying, I was thinking more about how people's expectations of a game weight influence the components they expect to see, types and numbers of components. So a simple card game with lots of cards won't have lots of other things. A game with a lot of cards and tokens and meeples and dice and player boards and so on will be perceived as more complex, even if it's not actually that complex to play.
Yeah, 100%, Catherine. There's definitely games where we've been asked to add things because nobody would pay for something that had that few parts. Also games where we've been asked to, can you reduce the number of parts because the target audience for the game isn't going to buy something that looks that complex. So it's interesting. Even today, Alexi Monero put up a picture of a game he's making with this really cool cat and this very simple math. But in the background, it had this 1 to 10 number line that was an inset card, dual layer board that you moved a cube on. And it's like, as soon as I looked at it, it's like, that might be just a little too much for the audience of that game. I love the look of it and everything, but it's like, I wonder if that's too much, right? So there is some kind of, effect when we look at things and we think it should have a value because of all of the parts, whether it's complexity, whether it's monetary value, because it has certain things that indicate it should be that way.
Well, I know.
So,
yeah. I know I had a similar buying experience a couple of years ago, but 3 years ago, I bought Just One, the party game. And in Australia here, when I bought it, I think it's come down now, but when I bought it, I think it was about between $50 and $60 Australian for that game. And I got it and I was like, this does not feel like it's worth $50 to me. Like it just felt, because of the component quality, then there wasn't a lot of components, all that kind of stuff. And it was just a thing. In Australia, we generally do pay more. Of course. Locally, we kind of call it the Australia tax because it's people charge extra to sell stuff here, or shipping's difficult or whatever. But it was still one of those definite things where I'm just like, if I'd really thought about this, would I have bought this one or would I have opted for a different one? Like different game that felt better value, or whatever.
Yeah. Even though like Just One is one of the best party games ever. It's a great party game. But is it worth $50?
Yeah. Anyway, we've hit an hour. So what I'm going to do is we're going to wrap up the show today. And I will let the audience know that I'm going to follow up with you and we'll book you in another time to maybe talk about this or some of the tangential things that have come up. Because it's been really, really good talking to you. And so what we might do, though, we are going to move to our world famous questionnaire.
Okay.
So this is the Materialise questionnaire. So these are 5 questions that we will use to define you and judge you for the future and forevermore. Okay. So
very
just
judgy.
be aware of the gravity of the situation of what's happening.
I am.
So Kate, so question 1 is, are you more of a heart, a diamond, a club, or a spade?
Diamond.
Do you want to expand on what? Do you have a rationale for that?
Yeah, it was when I played euchre. I played a lot of euchre. Do you guys know what euchre is?
I know it's a card game.
It is. It's a trick-taking card game that is very popular in like most of Canada and northern states. So it's something you play when you're cold. Apparently, I don't know. And I played it all through high school. And whenever diamonds came up, it'd be like, "Yep, I'm calling it." Just because, I don't know, diamonds treated me well. So I always liked diamonds better than any other suit. Diamonds. That's right.
Catherine
shine bright like a diamond.
Wonderful. Question 2 is, dinosaurs who are pirates or robots who are ghosts?
I think dinosaurs who are pirates would make a better story than robots who are ghosts. I can't rectify that one in my brain right now. Robots who are ghosts. I mean, that is definitely like way more philosophically interesting, but I think dinosaurs who are pirates would be more fun.
We've had guests who've been on both sides of that camp. Yeah, I see. For me, I think I picture them both as really fun, but that's because dinosaurs who are pirates. I think I genuinely think one day I will try and do a game that has that basic idea as a theme for it, because I think the art could be amazing, and like a T-Rex trying to steer a pirate ship. I just think is hilarious. Like, that's a funny image. But then the robot who are ghosts is partly inspired by Futurama, where Bender dies a couple of times and is a ghost, an entity, and there's a specific episode where he's the ghost for most of the episode, and it's just funny seeing how they rationalize that basically he's living in the Wi-Fi effectively, but yeah, it's a funny thing. Ghost of the machine. Yeah, cool. That's very cool. All right, what's question number 3? What's your favorite snack or drink when playing a tabletop game?
I don't actually eat or drink a lot when I play tabletop games.
Okay.
That's but not a lot is still more than 0, so there must be something.
Well, no, I mean like I usually don't. I don't.
Okay, you just don't.
So I don't think about eating and drinking an awful lot at all.
Because you're in that state of flow.
Well, possibly, but I'm also only 5'2" and 125 pounds, so I don't really need a lot of.
But I've definitely seen you post some of those cooking photos of yours. So
I like.
You
cooking.
definitely love food and cooking.
I like cooking. I like the science of cooking.
And then you give it to other people to eat.
Yes, because that is how Asian men express love. They can't say it. They feed people.
Well, Catherine has said flaming hot Cheetos. So
and also tell us about those sodas. And I've seen you with like very interesting flavors of Kit Kat, for example.
Right. So I like interesting flavors of things, but I don't necessarily. I don't crave food. I don't know. So whenever I'm playing a tabletop game,
you and me are very different, my friend. Very different.
That's okay. That's what makes the world go round, right? I'm not somebody who eats and drinks while I play games in general.
Yeah,
I just don't.
So if you go see a movie, do you get popcorn?
Nope.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
I don't. On that.
I don't like popcorn. So there's a reason. Yeah. You want to know the reason?
Okay. Yes, absolutely.
See these teeth?
Yeah.
They're all mine. Nothing's removed from my mouth, and so everything is really, really tight. And the little like seed shelly parts of
the
popcorn,
husks.
When they get caught in my teeth, they don't come out, and so
I just went
hurts me in my soul.
I get that. I just saw the Ant-Man and Wasp movie, the new one.
Did you?
Yeah. And,
see, it opens here today. Because we're in the past, you're in the future.
And I got popcorn, and I had that happen, and it's always the risk I take. But I've learnt for me a couple of ways of dealing with it. Nothing fancy, but like I rinse my mouth out with water, or I brush my teeth when I get home or whatever, and hope it helps dislodge anything. But the other thing for me that's been a change is realizing with long movies, if I don't want to go to the toilet during it, then I need to not eat or like have less drink. So I'll have like a bottle of water, and that's about it, and maybe some popcorn, and that's kind of it. So. But it's more bladder control than actually what I want to do.
Well, I mean, maybe that might be it too. I've never missed a part of a movie because I've had to go to the washroom. That's definitely true too. I'm also like, I don't drink pop much. Like I like ginger beer, but that's about it. And
are you going to Gamma?
We'll see. I'll probably be more likely to go to Gamma when it moves because I can drive there.
To Kentucky, yeah.
Well,
if you're not going to be at Gamma, I won't take...
I was going to say, if things go to plan, Kate's going to be at Gamma, so I think she was going to try and offer
I was going to bring you some Bundaberg ginger beer, which is the best ginger beer in the world.
But would it travel well?
Yeah, it's just a soda,
basically. But
Actually,
Adam,
maybe on
Adam,
a plane it might
Adam,
be
Yeah,
dangerous.
that's what I
But
was worried
Adam
about.
Savage has
yeah, I was
a
gonna say,
stash of
Adam,
it
Adam
somewhere
Savage, like from
in
Mythbusters.
San
Yeah.
Francisco.
So he loves it, and then Bundaberg actually then sent him a case of some of it to have on his show and stuff because he is such a fan.
Kat said that she'll be at Gamma. Please bring
LNP. I don't even know what LNP is. I think
I
that's
do. It's a New
uniquely
Zealand
Kiwi-
drink.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a Kiwi drink, but which we can get here. Just got to go for it. There are some importers that have it, so yeah. Well, I guess I'm going to speak for Kate Catherine and say that she'll do her best, and I'll try and remind her.
So yeah, nothing.
Question 4: cards or dice?
Oh, you're making me pick my favorite child here.
Yeah.
I love both. So I just bought a $100 set of dice today.
Woof.
Oh wow!
Yeah, that was my present to myself.
What's
Nice.
so special about these dice that you
They
went
have
$100?
gears embedded in them,
Oh,
actually in the center of them or around the outside?
in the center of them.
And this affects them how?
Doesn't at all. They just look
okay.
really cool.
oh, so it's
Oh,
is
so
it
is
like
it like
it's a
transparent?
translucent?
Yeah, so it's translucent dice with like embedded
Ooh.
gears inside of them. Because I have this idea for this cyberpunky thing that I want to make. So I thought, oh, this person is making custom dice. I should get some custom dice. And then I just said, I want custom dice. I just talked myself into it.
Yeah.
So yes, but I also adore cards for all the reasons. I collected cards for years. I love Magic and I love deck building and I love all those things. So, but I carry the very first D20 I've ever had with me everywhere. Like to this day, it's 44 years old. No, it's 44
like
years old.
Alana's emergency D20.
My blue plastic D20 that I colored in with a white crayon from my Red Box set when I was 6 years old. So I've carried it for 44 years of my life.
Wow.
So I guess I'm gonna say dice. Although I love cards, so I don't know.
I know.
But I'll say dice. I will pick dice on this one. I will pick dice.
And Kate, you've got more requests to bring Australian food, so Richard wants you to take over some Tim Tams. You're gonna have a special like suitcase just full of like.
I mean, we can get Tim Tams here in Canada. So
are they the same one? Are they the same?
Well, see, I don't know.
Originals. They are the only ones to get because the rest are just.
Apparently, the Smarties that you have over there are different from the Smarties we have here. I know Milky Way is different.
Oh,
I know American chocolate is very different to our chocolate.
Yeah. So, and there's all sorts of reasons why. So if you like food, like I like food, like I like the science of food. I don't like eating snacks though. But if you like the science of food, there's a wonderful podcast called Gastropod that will teach you all about this.
I think I heard you mention that on one of your Meeple Syrup when Kate was on. Yeah,
because I talk about Gastropod all the time.
Murder podcast, and you're like, food podcasts.
It's awesome.
Well, it's Marmite. They should charge you a lot for it.
Vegemite is way better than Marmite, in my opinion. Even though they're probably the same thing. All right, we're gonna go question 5. Yes. What fictional character would you invite to a game night?
Oh, that is a really, really good question. What fictional character would I invite to a game night? Okay, so she may not be my favorite character, but she's my favorite character as of late. I am a big anime fan, and so I've been watching this anime called Bocce no Rock. It's about a girl who is a guitar whiz, but she's also very much like a homebody, like stuck in a closet type thing. Okay. And she joins a band to try to get, break out of her shell. And I think she would really like playing board games. So there you go. I'd invite
There you go. That's awesome. I've got no idea who the character is, so I've just gone on your description. Awesome. All right. So that's pretty much the end of it for this week. I'm just going to move to the outro now, unless anyone has one final question. Kate, do you have one final question for Sen before we end this thing?
Only, are you happy to come back another time?
Of course. Always.
You're very friendly.
Thank you.
Okay, so that does it for this week. Thank you very much, Sen, for being with us and having all the tangents and all that kind of stuff. It's been very fun.
And obviously your knowledge broadly, but also specifically about the psychology stuff is very interesting. And I do look forward to maybe, we'll try and have you on again and talk about maybe other parts of it or whatever.
Yeah.
So how can people best follow along your game design journey? And I think it's following your handle at the bottom there. Yep.
Yeah. On
Is that
Twitter.
just on? Yep. Twitter.
Yeah. I mean, the bird machine is what it is, but it's still been the best that I could find. Like I didn't like any of the other alternatives, so I'm there still.
I think, I'm still in a bit of a unsure what to do situation with all that. So I hear you. You are also the co-host of Ludology podcast, which is a really good podcast. Been around for a long time. I know for me, when I started game design, it was the main podcast I listened to back then. And it's gone through a number of different teams running it, and you're part of the team now. And that's really exciting and really cool. So I recommend people check that out.
Yeah.
And you also have Meeple Syrup. So I've put the YouTube link here. This link is youtube.com/@meeplesyrup/streams. And this takes you to the live streams that Meeple Syrup runs. But I know that you also stream to Facebook as well. And I'm not sure anywhere else.
No, just Facebook and YouTube.
And don't forget February 28th.
Yeah, the Kickstarter. Then for so you said it was, I think, an RPG. Is that what?
Yeah.
This is?
So imagine you're dead, and you have to figure out why you died, or you're stuck in a time loop forever. That's the Revenant Society.
And this is a co-design with you and Banana Chan.
Yeah, so Banana Chan and I work on a lot of games together. So Juncture, Blood in the Banquet Hall, Revenant Society. We have a couple other ones coming out this year or next year. So we do lots of work together.
Yeah, very exciting.
Yeah.
Very, very cool. Sorry, I'm just checking our comments to see we haven't missed anything.
They're mostly bitching about Marmite.
About Marmite, yeah.
And then Marmite and shipping of Marmite.
The shipping of what can you not just like make Marmite? Is it something you could not because you?
My understanding is that Marmite and Vegemite, it's a yeast-based thing that's from
stuff that's left over after making beer.
Making beer, yeah, it's a yeast byproduct.
Yes.
So capitalism being capitalism, 100 or so years ago, they were like, "Oh, we've got all this byproduct. How do we?"
See, I'm sure there's a gastropod episode about it.
Probably
we'll listen to it, learn all about it.
Yeah,
and make a game about it. It'll be fascinating. Marmite, the game,
the Marmite Wars.
Cards that you can lick.
Oh, no, scratch and sniff.
Oh. That's terrible.
All right, so yes, thank you very much, Sen, and
You're welcome.
thank you to everyone who's been in the chat and asking questions and making us laugh. It's been wonderful. If you would like to follow along with us at all, then we recommend joining our Discord, which is ltt.ltd/s/discord. Both you can talk about Launch Tabletop in terms of the manufacturing and like Launch Lab and things like that, and Stellar, which we're obviously just now announcing. But you can also, we would just have to talk about game design and production, and both for us to learn more and for help other people and just see how it goes. We also would if you do also go to launchlab.com and then sign up for launchtabletop.com, not launchlab.com, launchabletop.com, and then create an account. You can make your projects and everything in there for free, and you only pay anything if you actually make an order. And if you do make an order, then use the code Materialise at checkout for 20% off pre-shipping. If you're following us if you want to follow us on Facebook or YouTube, then that would be really helpful. That's how you will be able to keep up to date with when streams are going live and catch up on old streams. And if you're using YouTube, then we would really, really appreciate a thumbs up and a like. Sorry, that's the same thing. A thumbs up and a follow. If you could follow us, that's great. Just saw Catherine's comment there. So I'm going to bill you, not kill you, bill you.
Yeah.
I'm going to bill you for the traumatic clickable cards.
Bill, chill.
Yeah.
Either way, it's not going to work out well for me.
And Materialise is produced by the Launch Tabletop. If you visit launchtabletop.com, you can find out more about us. I'm Eris. I've been your host. Kate, you've been my wonderful co-host. Thank you for being back. You were away last week, and it was weird not having anyone around. I'm so used to you being around, and Alan and Alana popping in as well. So anyway, we are here. And yes, thank you again, Sen, and thank you everyone that joined us. And I'm gonna press end broadcast. So bye-bye.
Bye.